Good evening. The special meeting today, Thursday, August the 15th, 2013, at 7:03. Our invocation will be done by Ms. Bicon.
Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you today for everything that we have. Please bless our men and our women across the seas and make everything safe for us. We thank you for our city and how beautiful it is and everybody in it. Thank you so much, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
We've established a quorum: Councilman Morones, Councilwoman Castillo, Councilman Guerrero, and Councilman Rodriguez. Now will everyone please stand for the U.S. Pledge of Allegiance and get this flag.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, do we have any citizens' comments? Then we're going to start with number 1, presentation, Oakwell Ventures renovation proposal. Is it Mr. Chandler?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to yield to Mr. Busby, who will be.
Okay, Mr. Betsy, welcome.
Thank you. May I approach the bench?
Yes.
Hand you something here? Bill Chandler said, my name is Walt Busby. I'm with Turner Busby Development in San Antonio. I'm the president and partner with that firm. We have been studying for almost most of the summer the possible renovation of the old Wilson County Hospital on Highway 97 as a possible candidate for renovation into 62 to 65 hotel rooms for use for the Eagle Ford shale companies, oil companies. We have spent a lot of money, a lot of time, and we approached the former city manager about 7 or 8 weeks ago and made the formal presentation that I'm going to make tonight, but since then we didn't hear anything. Mr. Chandler told me we should come down here and talk to you again and see if we can make you aware of what we're doing. My company does renovations. My company also does ground-up development. I personally was involved in San Antonio in developing Alamo Ranch, 3,100 acres. I've been in this business about 30 years. We've studied this building, and although we think there's a great opportunity for the city to renovate this and see a new beginning for the hospital, we also see that we're out of budget quite a bit. The property has great needs. The electrical spine has been pulled out. Most of the plumbing doesn't work. So the replumb, electrify, air conditioning, finish with all furniture and fixtures into a 62-room hotel type operation with some meeting rooms and everything that will fit our clients that we're talking to in the shale. It's going to put us out of budget about $1 million currently. And so with that said, we're really not able to move forward with the project at this time. What we came to the city to ask is that you consider looking into giving us a Section 380 agreement. Section 380 of the Texas Code allows you to set aside taxes, most usually hotel, motel taxes or sales taxes, in order to facilitate economic development. And in this case, we think it's warranted. What we're asking is that there's probably 1.5 to 2.5%, depending on how your city's set up, of the hotel motel tax you get to keep for the city in your budget. And I know you've been having fun all afternoon in the budget workshop that they said you've been in. I feel your pain So what we would propose is that we enter into a Section 380 agreement whereby over a 30-year period, we would get that portion of the sales tax that you currently don't get because there's nothing there, but we would use that money to facilitate the rehabilitation of this project and move it forward and close our budget gap. At our proposed gross revenues of $2 million a year, that would probably be no more than $40,000 a year for us, but because it would come in a long income stream, it would allow us to monetize that income stream on the front end and therefore not have to go into debt or take on additional partners, which is where we are now. We're trying to make the deal work. The rooms would be brought in at about $75,000 per room, and the building is in very good shape as far as the shell. I mean, it's built all concrete, roof floors, and the basement. But it lacks a lot of things that have been pulled out over time. It's really, I'm sure from the city standpoint, a danger, an eyesore, something that you probably want to see come back to life. So what we would offer is that we would do that in exchange for this 380 agreement, and we would work with your acting city manager and put together a plan and come back to you and say, this is the nuts and bolts of what we would really like to show you if you're willing to entertain our offer. And so also, we would also ask for a partial tax abatement. There's currently about $18,000 a year in taxes coming off of the land. We would propose that stay there as that baseline for 10 years. We would agree to pay that, but we would want an abatement of everything above that to, again, allow us to recoup our $1 million cost that we're out of budget. So with that said, we would be under construction by November if we can get this done, and it would probably take about 8 or 9 months to finish the project and be under full operation sometime in the end of 2014. So I know you all have been under a lot of stress this afternoon with your budget thing, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If you have questions at another time, you can certainly contact me. I'll leave some on my card. And more than willing to work with you. We're very interested in the project. We're doing things. We have 100 acres in Carrizo Springs that we're currently actively developing into workforce housing and apartments for the city. We think that, and hotels. We also think that housing is a critical answer to what's going on in Eagle Ford Shale, and we've been trying to address it now for almost 3 years. It's a little difficult because there's not a structure in most cities to allow us to finance these things. But we found that the 380 agreements have been something we can work with, that our partners understand, and they're willing to take the gamble on how it looks out. So at this time, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Y'all currently own the building?
No, we do not. It's under contract.
I noticed that y'all are wanting, or y'all have a 3,000 square foot drive-up secure storage and big rig parking available. Where is that going to be at?
Well, we have a piece of land across the street, and we left that option after we didn't hear back from Mr. Jocelyn. We abandoned that. We've since talked to the owner. He's interested in selling. We could probably put that back, but it would not be on the hospital site itself. It would be across the street in this large empty lot. There's a lot of need for parking, just hotel parking and parking for rigs. We've been asked to find that by our clients in Eagle Ford Shale.
So they would walk across the street?
Correct.
In essence, it would be another hotel with meeting facilities?
Possibly. We are also exploring the opportunity with some of these people to do a master services agreement, which is to lease to one owner. In that case, there would be no payment on the 380 agreement, but neither you or I would get anything because it'd be over a 30-day stay. We have found several people who are interested in leasing the entire project over a 2 to 3 year time frame. So it wouldn't be transient in and out. They would actually come in, take the meeting rooms, the office space on the second floor, and all of the living units, and operate it as just their source for people working in the shale. are looking at that. But for the most part, we're starting out thinking that it's going to be a 62-room hotel with meeting facility and office space on the second floor, the lower floor.
How many floors are there? I thought it was just one floor.
Well, there's actually multiple levels. There's two or three levels. We got two levels really. It's multiple because it sits on a hillside, as you know, and drops off. So you have a single level where the hospital operated. Then you can go down into a sub-level and slightly up into the second sub-level. But if you walk all the way to the north side, you're back at grade again with a single-story building. So it's a little hard to explain sometimes, but it's mostly a two-story building. It has a sub-basement underneath the hospital floors.
Without elevators, right?
No elevator.
I didn't, I worked there as a teenager, that's why I didn't remember the different floors.
Yeah, but it's confusing when you walk it because it is on a hillside, so you do tend to walk up many floors. But what we like about it is the floors that are on the hospital level are in pretty good shape. You know, even the bathrooms can be readily made available, and there's not a lot to do. Also because it's open underneath that floor, we can do all our plumbing drops, all our electrical drops right there without having to excavate under the building, which saves a lot of time and money. So that's what it's attracting us from. Also, its proximity to healthcare. There's a dentist right next door, and an emergency care doctor that's there, which is very good for people in this business because they have toothaches and they have pains and broken fingers and things like that that need to be fixed. So having a medical facility close by is also helpful.
Will this employ anyone, or how many will it employ?
Probably a total of 6 to 8 people on a full-time basis. We'll have, you know, the maids, we'll have the maintenance people, and then we'll have a staff of 2 to 3 that just operate. It really depends. If it goes to a single user, most likely a master services agreement, they would handle all that, so they would just have their employees there, and it wouldn't be ours. But if we had at least 6 to 8 full-time.
So would they get a background check, because there's a park there with kids, depending, how do we know what people are coming into that facility and staying and?
Well, most of our clients are fairly high-end oil companies that do a lot of background checking with their employees, both drug checking and, you know, just background in general. We haven't really explored that. We're happy to entertain that, if that's something the city's concerned about. We do like the park there, because it can be instrumental in helping you either enhance the park or maintain the park. Because it's so close, it is an amenity, you know, for this building. So we understand that. But I hadn't thought about it. It's a good question.
That's it, something, you know, because there's a lot of good kids, and I'm not saying that bad people are coming, but
Correct.
what we have a member with.
Well, we're gonna charge them $125 a night, so I'm hoping to get somebody that are decent, not, you know, not somebody who's just wandering through, but, we will put that on the list. And, most of the companies we're dealing with are fairly large companies. It might be 2 or 3 of those companies, but, you know, it's the Schlumberger, the Halliburtons, the Anadarkos, the Chesapeakes, that level of person.
Who's your competition
My competition
here?
here, well, every hotel that you have, you have some competition, and every man camp that you have up and down 181 and everything from here to Carrizo Springs is probably my competition. These people really are not averse to driving 300 miles a day, so you can't exactly say that you're on the corner of this or that because they don't care. So what they really want to do is, most of the big companies want to congregate their workers, especially the special class. We're talking about the midstream people, the people who are the petroleum engineers, the fracking engineers, the people who are not at the rig site maybe all the time, but maybe need an office space and maybe go back and forth to various rig sites. We're not talking about the oil field workers who are actually on the rigs. Most of those guys have to be much closer to the drilling site. But these would be the midstream workers who would be helping with pipelines and this sort of stuff. So
in Carrizo Spring, you already have something open out there, or you're working on it?
I have one hotel under construction on Highway 83 north of town next to Petrie Lane.
With operating yet?
Well, it's under construction, then there's some apartments that I sold to another group, it's their 96 units of apartments, it's up and running. But we're just now opening our, we just got our entitlement, our sewer, it took a very long time. AEP took a very long time getting us three-phase, almost 2 years. So we really couldn't start up until we had our three-phase commitment. The three-phase electrical, as you know, goes first to the oil companies and second to everybody else. So it took a while.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, at this time, we're going to item 2A, consideration and action to consider a proposed tax rate for fiscal year 2013 and take a record vote. Ms. Bailey?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, citizens. The agenda item we have tonight is consideration and action to consider a proposed tax rate for the 2013 tax year and take a record vote. Explanation, read this out here. Last week, y'all received the effective and rollback rates. Once the effective and rollback rates have been submitted to the governing body, the next step in the truth and taxation laws is to consider a proposed tax rate. If the proposed tax rate will exceed the rollback rate or the effective rate, whichever is lower. You must take a record vote and schedule the required public hearings. A record vote at this time is only for consideration of proposed tax rate. And at this point, our calendar is showing that we would adopt the tax rate on September 12th if everything's, we stay on our calendar. We included in your packet was a copy of the publication that will be completed once there's a couple blanks still, and they'll be in the paper the next following week. The current, we had actually some budget workshops where we discussed this, and it was also in the paper this Wednesday, located in the back of the paper. Your effective rate was 0.3157, your rollback rate was 0.3233. The city manager proposed budget that was handed out on on August 1st was 0.3233. And just for a little bit of information out there, the current rate is 0.3178. So again, at this point, I just handed out some spreadsheets that was in our budget workshop. There was some questions on different tax rates, and you can see I was in 4 scenarios. Like I said, for this particular item, y'all need to discuss what kind of tax rate you would like to propose, and then take a record vote. Then the next item would be to schedule the public hearing once that's taken place. Questions, or want me to go on and off and have discussion, ask questions and discuss more?
What was the first figure that you mentioned, 3 what?
The effective rate is
No, not the 3.2, but the 3.5, did you say 3.5?
3157 is the effective rate. In case anybody, it was in the paper, that's the numbers that are located in the publication that's required. And the rollback was 0.3233.
What does that mean, the rollback?
The rollback is your, over here. Rollback rate allows for about the same amount of taxes for your day-to-day operations, your M&O portion of your tax rate, which funds your general fund, plus an additional 8%. That's truth in taxation, that's state statutory, it's all calculated in the amounts. rollback rate, if we were to go over the rollback rate, citizens could petition, go out and get signatures to have an election. And then if they received enough signatures for an election, then it would come back to the council, then they would just determine a date for an election, which would probably be, could be as far as January. And the effective rate, for those out there, allows about the same amount of total revenue for the M&O and INS, the entire tax rate, as the prior year. So the calculation that's done takes last year's tax rate, kind of compare this to apples to oranges for the new year, and makes those oranges now be apples. Again, it's statutorily, we get the information, actually the appraisal district calculates that rate, those rates for us with all the information based on new property, TIF, protests, the whole. And you can get a copy of that as it says, you can pick up a copy of that from the appraisal district. The entire calculation.
Ms. Laura, if we considered the current rollback rate, that would not cover hardly any of the expenses on items that the city needs.
They would not have, if you went with the proposed budget of the city manager, which is at the rollback rate, that would not cover the items that were discussed last week and that were in the paper for police vehicles, additional police officers, the mower, skag mower for the parks, merits. Paper, so, oh, actually it's in here. Digital cameras in the police department, and some additional money to help towards the fund balance deficit. We do, in the proposed budget, there is $56,000 going towards the deficit. Currently. That would be, there would be an additional $22,000 the items we've been discussing.
But if we increase it a few pennies, then it's a possibility that some of those things could be purchased. But there's also the possibility of having citizen protest and having
That
Take
is
it
their
to a vote.
right.
Then it would go to the rollback rate.
If you went over the rollback. And again, this, right now, whatever rate you decide tonight to take a record vote on, you're gonna be discussing it, having your public hearings on September 12th. You can't go over that rate. You can go below it. So if you decide, between now and then, you want to add some additional items, and you've not put enough in the rate tonight, you won't be able to.
we have some.
May I ask a question? What does the rate need to be to cover the costs?
We don't have that.
If
We
we
need to
went
know what
with
the
it,
rate needs to
again,
be so we can see what the increase is.
if you went with the items that were all requested, and the items that we put in last week were all of the unfunded items that were from the August 1st city manager, that rate would be 0.5614, which is a 77% increase. On a $100,000 home, that would make your taxes go for the year $244.
We don't need that.
Well, and that's, yeah, that was 6 police vehicles and 3 new officers and some other
I see,
items.
that's very important, I think it's very important, I think a lot of people are shaking their heads, but when you think about everything that we need as a city to grow, we need to consider.
What was that rate of increase on it, so it's
Okay,
$100,000?
$244. Again, that was all of the items funded, and they were not originally in the city manager proposed.
I think all of our questions were basically answered in the budget workshop. Getting to the nitty-gritty is the problem of us actually determining, what's that verbiage again, a record vote for the rollback. And so that's the main problem. We don't want to undercut ourselves by going just by the bare minimum of the rollback or the effective rate. exactly.
And then also getting the citizens to understand why we go up, why we're doing it. Because I'm sure there's gonna get some misinformation, you know, and they come up with petitions, not really knowing what they're against.
Okay, we have 3 more meetings between now and then, and there's 2, there's the budget public hearings and the tax public hearings. It'll be after tonight, you'll set. So, more discussions to come over.
So we're not taking a vote tonight on what it is, it's just what we can go above.
Consideration, it's a
Is it
consideration.
the proposal?
And at the council discussion rate, that was, I mean, that's the most.
Yeah, and we had discussed it there, it was, a nickel, 15 cents, 18 cents, I threw it at 18, just to kind of give you.
That 14% and the, okay, never mind, it went up, it went away. Not 40.
Actually, and I'll just say this, because this was in the budget workshop, for every penny that you would increase on the tax rate, it would give the M and O side, again, just operations, $26,467
Laura, for the record, when was the last time that we had a tax increase?
12 years. Almost 20, the tax rate has changed very little, and in the budget document, it's online, you can see that graph.
But just because the rate hasn't increased on the city side doesn't mean that the rate hasn't increased on the county as well as
I
the,
can't speak to the
Yeah.
county or any of the others, unfortunately, their money is not.
So it's just like we say it over and over, every time that our value goes up, we make more money. And, that's where we make up the money, but my only concern is, that- and I want everybody to have it tomorrow, they'll say, oh, Morones was against this, Morones was against that, but let me tell you, when all these, increases are, the lowest one is 18, 46%, 59%, and 77%. You know, I know that we should have been increasing years ago, but I don't believe in increasing that high, that fast, because we're not thinking of the senior citizens that are on a paid income. We're just thinking of, well, we're making money, and we're okay, the ones that are young and at heart, we can go ahead, and we need the police cars, we need a raise, but if you're gonna give me a raise of 3%, and then you're gonna charge me 77% on taxes, well, you really didn't give me a raise, because now I gotta pay, what I gotta pay over here, but, you know, we're not gonna take the vote as an official vote tonight, but we have to take in consideration 18%. I think the last time we tried to go up, well, was it 11%, or they tried to protest? I understand, and we didn't go 6%, 7%. I can see something like that, but I can't, on my point, I can't see 18, I can't see 49, I can't see 77. And if we say, okay, we're talking about 6 police cars. We discussed, and I'm not trying, but I want the people to know what's going on. We have 6 cars that are under 30,000 miles. We have 6 good cars. We have 10 other cars that are fair. None of them, I think there's one that's 100,000 and something. Now, yeah, we need to keep the city and the citizens safe. We need to have the police cars. But I believe that if we have to fix something else or say for this, because we've been trying to tighten the belt, well, maybe 3 cars, maybe 2 cars, maybe 1 car. I don't know what it is that we need. I know they need the 6, or they asked for the 6, but I just want the people and the citizens to understand where I stand at on my vote. So, thank you, everyone.
and then at the same token, we can, I guess we'd go up on the rate on our side, but at the appraisal district, they can go up again on their rate, correct?
Well,
On whatever rate the county or,
If our value is 110,000 and this year the appraisal district says it's 120,
they can appraise the houses at a different value.
if your home went up, your tax taxes may go up if you kept the same tax rate as this year. So it is possible that you could, if your value of your home went up,
Well,
that you
you
could have
do-
an increase that's not because you
Yeah.
voted on a tax increase.
Correct.
So you could have additional increase, yes.
But even without making changes on your house, and having it, you know, the same burnt grass and everything else, you can still have
It's po-
the,
if your value
the
of your
same,
home, it's possible.
same house without making any changes, and then the amounts go up, and then you're paying twice. We'll go through with the rate increase that we would vote on to, you know, an appraisal increase as well of your house.
It
And
is
don't get me
possible.
wrong, I believe it needs to go up, but not where they're at.
But if the rate goes up on the city side, and the appraisal of your house goes up on the appraisal side, that's still money generated for the city, correct? I mean, so, but I mean, you're getting it from, even if we get the vote on the,
That's where your effective rate comes into play, because that's where those calculations come in. All those types of numbers as a whole are calculated in the worksheets. So that's where the effective rate is lower, because it's saying, hey, there's been, whether it's new values, homes increase, businesses, it's saying, okay, you're bringing the same amount of money. That's how that effective rate comes into play.
Laura, last year, if I remember correctly, the council approved either a freeze or something for senior citizens, where their taxes for the city would not go up. Am I correct?
The over 65 exemption has been in place for the city. It's a $5,000 exemption and is currently in place. We reviewed it last year. We did do some checking on it to make sure that it was normal.
You don't have to freeze it.
There was a cap. Wasn't there a cap that was a vote to do a cap on 65 and over?
It's the over 65 exemption.
Yes.
And we do have it. It's currently, the city does offer it to all people that are over 65. And it gives them a tax break. Basically, I believe it's $5,000 off of their values before it's calculated.
In addition to your home tax.
They do get, and they do have an exemption out there for over 65. Disabled veterans, anybody that has a exemption on their property is allowed to have that rate.
but again, their taxes that are due can still go up, correct?
Yes, there's not
Yeah,
a
there's
cap
not
on
a
it. The
rate.
school district can add a cap on it, but we can only add the exemption, not the ceiling.
And the school can still get can still get taxes from an over 65 exemption.
That's correct. The over 65 exemption, what it does is it takes $15,000 off of their value, and the year that they turn 65, they put what they call a ceiling on it. So regardless whether their value goes up, they won't pay any more than that tax amount from that year forward, as long as they have the over 65 exemption. And that is on school taxes. That doesn't go across the board. It's one of those exemptions they give to people paying school taxes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sherry, I'm still not clear on the ceiling for city, for 65 and over for city. I thought we
There's not a
voted
ceiling.
on that.
Yeah, we voted to look into it, we voted to do the information on it, we looked into it, and there's not.
No, it was a done deal. We voted to do it, to start this year. So you may want to check into that.
We can, and we can still, if it's allowed, I believe after we looked into it, we don't have the ability to put a ceiling, but we can up from 5,000 to 10,000, I believe. So let me get some research on it, and I will have a
Because
presentation.
we voted on the ceiling from what I understand,
Okay.
yeah, so I remember that.
Okay, we still can do that in this tax year. Tax bills have not gone out, they haven't been calculated, so it is something that we can still add when we give them our tax rate. So it's not saying that we just.
Never change all the factors,
Okay.
but don't believe you have that, but we can, I don't have those one papers in there. I don't believe that was in there.
Will the numbers be
The ceiling
affected?
wouldn't work until this year, so it actually wouldn't affect this year's tax calculation, it would go into next year. It would actually freeze it for the first year. So this tax year, it wouldn't affect the amount, it would be the following
Maybe that's
year.
why it says on the
subsequent.
paperwork.
Right, right.
Brian, so.
So essentially, it would affect it in a negative with our numbers.
Yes. City of Plano had that happen to them several years ago.
motion? Anyone has any other questions?
The bottom of the paper is the way, if someone can say, approve consideration and put a tax rate in there, and read that little word at the bottom of the action, that's, how we have to word it. And then we take a record vote, so what we do is, in other words, it's a little bit different than a normal item.
I personally think that if we're gonna, go for a record vote, I think it needs to be padded a little bit, just to have some wiggle room, and at that time we can, you know, and as our budget workshops and we start, breaking down all the numbers, more of the fine tuning, I think we can adjust it back to where it really absolutely needs to be, rather than, you know, something that's harsh to the environment, it's, you know, to where it doesn't hurt. It's gonna hurt, but,
So what are you proposing, Council?
at this point, the rollback would be at 5 cents, correct? 5 cents over rollback? I mean,
If you
the
would,
rate, the council discussion rate?
yeah, if you went with the 5 cent
Mhm.
one, then you would say, approve consideration of proposed tax rate for 2013, 0.3733 per 100 valuation.
Okay.
And then take a record vote, and your choices are for, against, present and not voting, or absent. So that would be the paper.
I would propose the 14 cents over rollback, and which would give it at the 0.4633, which, again, I think it's a 46% increase, and, you know, very nominal to work out these numbers a little bit better, to fine tune them.
Yeah, and you can go below it, you just couldn't go over that.
Because I think that if we vote on the rollback, it needs to go up, it absolutely needs to go up. It would have hurt us with time and so forth in the long run. I will approve the consideration of proposed tax rate for 2013 of 0.463300 per $100 valuation and take a record vote. That's what I just read.
I second it.
Before you vote, I have a question and maybe some comments from there. Are we going to have another chance to give our impressions or our recommendations before this becomes final?
Yes,
That's what we're talking about. This isn't a final
Well,
vote.
I understand that, but how
There will be two
committed are you
public
going to
hearings.
be to that at a later date?
They're gonna
There's
publicize
two
it in the
required.
paper, and then they're gonna have a
Can I
public
make
hearing.
some comments, may I, please,
Sure.
before you guys vote? I mean, this is the proper time to do it, right? You know, the last few years, we've tried, the city has, to increase that rate, and I thought at the time, for good reasons. And at the time, businessman Jim Miller was successful in keeping the city from increasing the rate. In essence, you know, we stayed there, as everybody knows, for maybe, 12 years now? And then last year, as you might recall, there was a couple of, in fact, it was Councilman Morones and Councilman Guerrero, who actually voted against retaining the same rate, the previous rate. And the end result was that it was actually decreased because we had to go to the effective rate. And in spite of the fact that the city was losing $60,000 of budgeted revenue, we still voted that way. Now, all of a sudden, we're talking about increasing a rate significantly. And we're doing it in spite of the fact that we have increased significantly our sewer and water rate. And of course, the electricity costs are going up. The cost of living for citizens here is going up. And I think they're in a worse situation than they were a year ago when we lowered the interest rate. So I'm very much against increasing that rate. I think that at this point in time, we shouldn't put all the burden on the citizens to help out with the insolvency problem. And that's what it appears like. Fees are going up, tax rate is going up now. Again, going back to what I said before, sewer, water plant. And Mr. Morales, you said, you might recall this, Councilwoman Castillo, okay. At my age, I forget. But anyway, you might recall that you tried to convince them that they were actually hurting the city by doing what they did. And Mr. Morales said, if I save, because we were saving like $1 per individual, and Mr. Morales said, if I save the people, I'm for the people, $1, I'm going to do it. Well, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's look out for the people. I think they're in a worse situation right now than they were a year ago. You're doing a lot of other things to increase the revenue for the city. Let's not do it on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Gonzalez. But as some of the rates have gone up in the city, in the sewer and the water, and those were just mainly to maintain themselves.
I'm giving you a situation. I'm not arguing whether it's...
Oh, no. And I'm just trying to be transparent here. And this record vote that we're wanting to record is mainly for budget purposes. It's something that we have to look at to make sure that everything is within
I understand the
management.
process perfectly. I understand the part. I just don't want you to get into the mode of thinking that we're going to make up some more money on the backs of the taxpayers.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm a taxpayer too, but
Yes,
you're
not in the situation that most people that we were talking about are in. You and I are not.
correct. But at the same time, it does affect both of us.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so
Like it
let's
affected us last year and the
Yeah.
years previous.
correct.
Okay. Laura, did you have something to say?
Motion for schedule a public hearing then. Oh, yeah, they got to take the rest of those.
There was already a second.
Again, you for, against, present, and not voting.
Mayor, motion, chair second.
For,
Eric, do you want to rescind the motion and give it a different figure at this point?
no,
Hmm?
no,
You do not?
no, I'm gonna,
Because that figure can be adjusted.
exactly. It's not a set in stone.
Just
It's,
so that if we need to tweak it.
And again, I'm understanding everything perfectly. I'm just simply saying what I think you need to consider at whatever point. Now, it may not be tonight, and I'll speak again if I have to, and I'm very adamantly against, still continuing to take out whatever it takes to resolve our insolvency on the backs of the poor people. And we have a lot of those here in this state. And I'm not one of them, I realize that.
No.
So I need to vote for it. Okay, so we have 3 for, 1 against, present and not voting, 0, absent, 1. Will I do it, Laura?
I think you consider present and not voting without a check, just, it won't change anything, but that may actually be part of publication. Because it'll be, your name will show, it'll actually have your name.
Now we're gonna go to item 2B, consideration and action to schedule required public hearing dates and times for the fiscal year 2013 proposed tax rate.
This item, again, flows with this item we just previously voted on. State law requires that the governing body is proposing a tax increase or rate over the rollback or effective rate. It must issue the notice of public hearing on the tax increase before adopting a tax rate that exceeds the rollback or the effective tax rate, whichever is lower, and must schedule 2 public hearings on the proposal. And again, we talked about this will be the publication, and this will show the dates and times of the scheduled hearings. The suggested public hearing dates are Wednesday, August 28, 2013, and Thursday, September 5th, 2013, to be held in City of Floresville Council Chambers. And so what I need to do is schedule an announcing of dates, place, and time. On my next.
And when else we have this vote?
September 12th. That'll be the day you do your tax rate changes.
I want to make sure that I'm here, because sometimes I like to be here after,
So you're gonna hear those dates? Those dates that have to be scheduled.
Just schedule an announcement, date and time yourself.
Any motion in a second, please?
Mayor, I move to schedule the required public
What are
hearing.
the, sorry, wait, sorry.
I move to schedule the required public hearing dates and times for the proposed tax rate of 2013. Hearing dates are Wednesday, August 28, 2013, and Thursday, September 5th, 2013.
At 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock. I'm
Seven.
sorry, 7 o'clock, I'm sorry.
Okay, can I have a second?
A second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Guerrero, second by Councilman Rodriguez, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're going to go on to item 2C, consideration and action to approve the final plat for Richardson subdivision. Cindy?
Yes, Mayor and Council, good evening, audience. We've gotten the plat from the developers for the final. We submitted it to our engineer to make sure that everything complies to the city's ordinance and recommendations, and they have. We even have TxDOT approval for the 2 access points in their property. It's just a matter of procedure of getting it approved.
There was only one access point in the plat, and now there's 2, and they've both been approved by the TxDOT.
Yeah, actually, the engineer's still working with the TxDOT people to get that worked out, so. But TxDOT did approve the plat that was presented to them.
Okay, so it's no longer going to have a cul-de-sac, it's going to be a straight through? Okay.
No, it's still gonna be a cul-de-sac.
Is it against one saying yes, the other saying no.
It's still
Okay.
gonna be a cul-de-sac.
It's still cul-de-sac and, okay. Okay, and curbs and everything, okay.
Everything is noted in there, everything from all the utilities, the street construction, Oak Hills, Wilson County doing the septic, all of Phelps, all of that's indicated on the plat. I do have the plat, 2 Mylars here at this time, for your approval.
I want to go ahead and approve the final plat for Richardson subdivision.
That's second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Rodriguez, second by Councilman Morales, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, now we're going to go on to item 2D, consideration and action to approve a 25-foot residential lot variance at 800 First Street.
Mayor and Council, what we have here is, I have an applicant, Blanca Diaz, who wants to put in a new manufactured home at 800 First Street. And she has applied at a variance due to the frontage of the lot is not from 25 feet. She has the deck, her deck is 150, but the frontage is 50 feet. It was sent to P&Z for recommendation, and they have their findings. I have Mr. Bicon here who can explain to you what they did recommend to approve, and I have him here if you want to explain what the reasons why they approved it.
Mr. Wagner?
Are you ready for me to explain?
Here's the nitty gritty.
Normally to put a mobile home, you need to have 75 by 100. This mobile home is going next to a mother's home. The mother owns the 2 lots, I think, and given one to the daughter. When you look, do they have any of this? When you look at the surrounding areas, there are lots of 50-foot wide grandfathering lots. And in making the variance, we did consult with all the rules of the subdivision, and went with the variance to approve it because it did not affect anybody immediately around that area. They also got signatures of
All the
all
property
the
owners.
property owners around that were quite happy with it. So it makes sense to approve the variance. I'll be honest, I was against it initially until I really looked at it and investigated it. It just made sense to do it.
If you look at that exhibit that I passed, it's with Ms. Castillo, it shows where all those lots at that time were that, divided up that small. So through time, they were sold as such. So, I hate to use the word grandfather, but in a sense,
What did you say?
grandfather.
First beat on, but.
Okay, you know where,
All right, close.